Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Second Legacy. And oh, by the way, that guy is Tim. And thank you so much for stopping by. On this episode, we're going to dive into another live caller. And the value of these calls is so incredible because it shows you're not alone. Everyone on the level of America across the board is on the same page. And we are going to pass the blessing, the Second Amendment, along to the next generation. And that is what this is all about. If you enjoy this format or this channel, make sure you leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you turn the notification bell on so we can spread some more freedom everywhere that we go. I'm going to say a quick word from our sponsor, and then we are going to get to this live call. Now, the vest you're seeing me wear is from BulletSafe, and they've sponsored these videos. BulletSafe is on a mission to be the #1 provider for safety equipment such as this for not only the civilian, but also the security market. Now, the VP3 that I'm wearing comes in at $299.97, which makes it completely affordable and provides up to or better than Kevlar protection. This thing is NIJ level 3 tested. You are talking about up to 44 Magnum stopping on this bad boy. They've made it concealable, discreet, comfortable, and breathable. It's modular and upgradable, and in comparison to previous models, it's 50% thinner and 25% lighter. As you can see, I'm wearing it in the filming of this spot, and it is not even adding to any of my dexterity whatsoever. This is something very concealable, and if you're in the market, this might be something just for you, and thank you to BulletSafe for making this content possible. All right, with that, let's dive in. Today's live caller is Raymond. Raymond, how are you doing? What you got for us?
I'm doing okay. I've been watching you guys a lot and following the media. I've also noticed that Supreme Court's taken up a case on Chevron Deference, which I've found to be very impressive.
Yep, I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I've been explaining to my family. I also talked to the chief of police about it. He found that to be very interesting because they've been using Chevron Deference for so long to let the government agencies run amok, and it's time to rein these guys in.
Mm-hmm. So is that kind of what you want us to talk about, is the Chevron deference angle and what this could mean with the SCOTUS decision?
Yes.
That's awesome. I didn't even pay you to say that. I love this topic so much. It's incredible. Man, I mean, Tim and I have talked about it a lot, and I mean, Tim, you can vouch for this. I texted you right when that came out. This was a big deal. I mean, this is
huge.
The implications of this are massive.
Yeah, I heard about it from Jared over Guns and Gadgets.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Good old Jared.
Yep. So, I mean, Tim, where do you want to start on this? You want to do the high level? You want to do some backstory? Like, what do you kind of want to do here?
For those that might be watching that don't know what Chevron deference is, in essence, what we're talking about is Congress will pass a law, but the law will have ambiguities in it, right? Even if the law is 2,000 pages, there's still going to be ambiguities in it. So when they pass the law, it gets signed by the president, becomes the law of the land, then it gets handed off to an agency, and the agency will be responsible for taking care of that law. And anytime an ambiguity comes up, that agency it'll be up to them to decide what path to follow. And that's called Chevron deference. For example, Congress has passed a law that said armor-piercing bullets are illegal. The law, I thought, was pretty clear, but the ATF thought it wasn't so clear. And so ATF started banning rifle cartridges that could defeat body armor because they had a steel penetrator. What the ATF won't acknowledge is the fact that a rifle cartridge, even without a steel penetrator, will defeat body armor.
Exactly.
And you had the congressman that passed the law, wrote the law, and sponsored the law. They came out, wrote a letter to the ATF and said, hey, this isn't in the spirit of the law. We've always known rifle cartridges could defeat armor. It was specifically about handgun cartridges. ATF didn't listen to them. They went ahead and banned the importation of 7.62x39 that had steel cores. Now they've banned 5.45 with steel cores. They tried to ban SS-109 M855, but the uproar was so massive that they backed off of that. So that was done through Chevron deference. ATF is saying, well, we have the authority to take a look at this law and just spin it any direction we want to. And what we're saying and why it's going to the Supreme Court is if you're going to basically create a new law citing the last law as reason to do so, as justification, that needs to go back to Congress, and Congress is going to have to approve that. That's our argument. And so the Supreme Court taking this up is going to basically look at this and say, okay, and they've already done this. They slapped the EPA pretty hard.
Yep, exactly.
And so I think that kind of set the stage for what's coming next. And I think we got a pretty good insight into how they're going to approach this, they being the Supreme Court. Because they understand that this is a tremendous danger to liberty. Tremendous. It cannot be overstated. It goes way past the Second Amendment. It goes into all aspects of government and gross abuse of power. citing Chevron deference. We can just do whatever we want. We passed a law banning ICEs, but you know what? We're going to take away cars. Citing this law, Chevron deference. That's what they've been doing.
Man, how do I follow something so eloquent and beautiful as that? Well, I'm going to try.
Well, what's also even worse is it actually gets abused on a local level, too. Most people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
it does.
So it's anything across the board, my man. So if you've got a federally accepted statute, the entire thing goes straight down the line. It filters from the head down.
Did you actually know they're using Chevron deference even in family court?
Well, that actually factors into the next thing that I was about to say. So check this out, right? Chevron deference, and this is something that Tim and I, we had a lot of conversations about when we started Second Legacy. This is not just about the Second Amendment. This channel is heavily focused on the Second Amendment. We have a deep background in preserving and passing the Second Amendment along. But these are things that are affecting other areas of freedom as well. This has branches everywhere. And this is a perfect example. Like Tim just alluded to the West Virginia versus EPA case, which came down last year. It had the unfortunate position of being the day after the Bruin decision and the day before the Dobbs decision. So, I mean, it was like the EPA what? So they legitimately got smoked because they tried to reclassify carbon dioxide as a toxin. And it's not a toxin. And the Supreme Court said, you cannot do that. You can't just make up and reclassify things for interpretation. And they specifically cited Chevron deference. Now, this is where it gets massively important, stacking on what Tim just said. Because the West Virginia EPA cases could be considered an anomaly, Neil Gorsuch, one of the SCOTUses, came out and said it is well past time that this be corrected. I mean, legitimately, actually is on record saying this needs to be fixed now. And with this newest case, which I told my wife about this, and she got the biggest kick out of the fact that Chevron deference, after I reaffirmed what it meant, because it's like gun nerd speak. But she got the biggest kick about the fact that it could be brought down by herring fishermen. Because the entire thing was the National Fisheries is saying you have to pay these guys salaries, and they're like, no, I don't. And now it's getting to the Supreme Court. The thing that's important about this is, anytime there's government overreach, anytime that there is Chevron deference abuse, which has happened, I believe, Tim, correct, it's either 86 or 84. I don't remember. I think it was 84 when that decision came down. But since
86.
then, 86. Okay, thank you. So 86 is when that came down, and they've come out the gate and been abusing it ever since. And now it's starting to actually get smacked around, and we've got a conservative justice and a conservative court, and they've already signaled that it's not a good look for the EPA. They've signaled independently that they don't like it and it needs to be done away with, and now 4 out of the 9 have said we're going to take this case. I like this a lot.
Yeah, and one thing I find to be interesting is that through my work with GOA and their legal side, this is something that the Supreme Court's been weighing for some time, and there's been a lot of discussion in the legal community as to which case is going to get picked up by the Supreme Court to address this, because everybody's been waiting for that perfect case. We were kind of hoping that the bump stocks would get us there, maybe the braces. And even with the bump stocks, now we have, 3 different circuit courts, 2 in agreement, 1 outlier with regards to whether or not a bump stock is either an accessory or a machine gun. 2 have said it's not a machine gun, 1 has said it is. What's that?
And 1's a split personality.
Yeah. And
1 counts for 2.
I mean, here you would think that's a perfect time for the Supreme Court to step in and go, okay, obviously there's great division in the federal court system. We got to resolve this because this whole bump stock thing was done completely on Chevron deference. ATF held for a long time that they weren't anything more than accessory. They were unregulatable, just like braces. And then they turn around one day because Joe Biden gets elected and he gives a new directive to his ATF that he controls and says, oh, by the way, make this go away. And then all of a sudden they just go, oh yeah, everything we said over the last 10 years, disregard that. It's a machine gun. And we're going to cite Chevron deference for being able to do that.
Because I was watching a USCCA video on YouTube where Tom Grieve, he's a former prosecutor, he said the way that works at the Supreme Court is they wait through these legal suits where they meet a point where there's too many people on kind of like having conflicts as far as like who's right, who's wrong. That's when the Supreme Court steps in and says, okay, we need to check this out because there's too many people split on this one subject.
Correct. It's how many people have injuries and differing opinions, and why is there some sort of confusion about what's going on. And that's something, this same line is what's going to end up getting the AR and the MAG bans in front of the SCOTUS the exact same way, because now you've got 10 states that are doing it. 10 out of 50, okay, that's a pretty big portion. The proportion of the population is pretty big. This is where it's going. The more they encroach, the more they flex, the more attention they will get. It will just take time. But this Chevron thing's massive.
Yep.
Well, I learned in the military, when you make that many mistakes, now the microscope is on you.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Thank you for calling in, man. It's a great conversation, great topic, and we are definitely excited about the Supreme Court taking up the issue of Chevron deference. We'll revisit this once they start issuing a ruling. Hopefully it's in our favor being the American people's and the side of liberty. With that being said, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.